Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss the fundamental problem which Rishi Sunak has in connecting with people. And it isn't the terrible things he's doing, or even his own immunity from consequences, because Boris Johnson shared those traits, but before he went too far, was still able to connect with many supporters. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So Rishi Sunak has once again urged people to hold their nerves and we will get through this latest Tory-fueled crisis. It has been pointed out that Rishi Sunak is a man worth several £100 million. He is married to a woman who has basically double that wealth and is part of a family who are amongst the richest in the world. There are some who will ask if it's ever possible for someone who is wealthy to connect with the public when they are immune to their troubles. Or, after all, most troubles seem to centre on financial independence, don't they? I mean, money may not bring you happiness, but the lack of it can certainly cause a lot of misery. But we know that wealthy people can connect with the public. We know that wealthy prime ministers can. I mean, all prime ministers are financially well off by the standards of most of the public, certainly by the standards of members of the public who will suffer at times of economic instability. You know, even if they weren't before they entered Parliament, the salary of an MP, a minister, and then the Prime Minister is far above that of the sorts of people who will struggle with financial hardships when you are in economically uncertain times. So even a relatively modest Prime Minister is not going to suffer the hardships that one of their voters might. But Prime Ministers are able to connect. Boris Johnson, bafflingly, was able to connect with certain voters. He wasn't particularly popular. Like, in terms of the raw figures, at his height, he was basically on a par with Keir Starmer, who is widely regarded as being not that charismatic. But what Johnson didn't do was tell people to suck up hardship. He actually said, look, you're in hardship now. Here's the way out. Follow me. Here's the sunlit uplands. You know, a way out of low wages and deprivation. Yes, it was all lies. But while the lies held, he made that connection. Consider what it was that actually caused Boris Johnson to lose his connection. So in 2021, during the summer, the wheels started to come off. He lost a safe Tory by-election to the Liberal Democrats. And that was because he lost his main reason for moderate Conservatives to back him, which is that he wasn't Jeremy Corbyn. Boris Johnson couldn't present himself as the lesser of two evils anymore. So he lost one connection quite quickly. But his main connection was with the Brexit supporting lower income workers who'd been struggling in recent years. They were persuaded that this was not because of Tory austerity, but because of the EU. Johnson made his connection by promising them a brighter future. And just around the corner, there was no hold tight, lads, we'll get through this. It was all, no, we're going to power through and the sunlit uplands are just round the corner. He was a posh lad, but he was one of them as far as his supporters were concerned. But then the Owen Paterson scandal. Johnson's friend had been caught abusing his position as an MP and he was going to face a punishment. To prevent this, Boris Johnson got his MPs to vote to literally disband the Standards Committee which had carried out the investigation. This was a case of a Prime Minister disassembling an institution just to allow a crooked mate to get away with the consequences. It was like disbanding the police who were about to charge someone with a crime. It was one rule for us and no rules for them. Boris Johnson was no longer playing the part of one of us, but setting himself and his friends above the normal rules. And then Partygate, of course, completely shattered that connection. People saw how time after time Boris Johnson, far from showing leadership and certainly not showing solidarity, he was breaking his own rules. Not just the rules that bind us all, but the rules he made and explained to the public several times a week in pandemic addresses to the nation. From that point, Boris Johnson was just the rich, powerful man who put himself ahead of others, who asked others to follow rules that he was not prepared to do himself. His connection was broken. Well, Rishi Sunak's problem is he never actually made the connection in the first place. Boris Johnson promised a high-wage economy. Rishi Sunak is deliberately lowering public sector pay in real terms and telling workers in the private sector to stop asking for inflation-linked pay rises. So what Sunak is actually doing to the public, to workers, is saying, right, The workers where I can control your wages, I'm going to give you real terms pay cuts. And the workers where I can't control your wages, I'm going to ask you to take real terms pay cuts. By supporting the higher interest rates, he's also telling them that he wants to take away what disposable income they have left to them. You're spending too much. It's your fault we've got inflation. You're spending too much. Stop spending. If you won't stop spending, I will just take your money off you. How do you like higher mortgage payments? You know, as two of the main drivers of high inflation of food and energy, you can only presume what Rishi Sunak is really telling people to do is spend less on food and energy. Not something people who already struggle to buy enough want to hear. Boris Johnson promised better public services. Rishi Sunak is delivering more train delays and cancellations, longer NHS waiting lists, fewer teachers and teaching assistants in schools, and a police force that can't even charge a former Prime Minister when he records himself breaking the law. On top of it all, Sunak also turns down chances to stand with the public. Opportunities present themselves, he thumbs his nose at them. Michael Heseltine once said that Boris Johnson was the sort of person who would wait to see which way the crowd was moving, then run ahead of them and yell, "Follow me." Well, there's political benefit in this cynical approach, but Sunak doesn't understand it. Last week, Sunak had the opportunity to stand with the public. The Privileges Committee was being attacked by rebels in his party, and there was to be a vote on the report. He could have sent a letter or a note or a memo or anything to all of his MPs saying he will withdraw, not just that there will be punishments if MPs bring his party into disrepute by making unfounded accusations. He sort of said that. No, he should have said, no, I will withdraw the whip from anyone who does that. And he wouldn't have had to do it with many. One or two would have tested him out first. He would have withdrawn the whip and the rest would have kept their mouth shut. After all, if a Tory MP will challenge Sunak, even on pain of having the whip withdrawn, then Sunak has no control of them anyway. That is your ultimate sanction, withdrawing the party whip. If that doesn't work, they're not going to do what you say anyway. They're already lost to you. You may as well shove them on the opposition benches. But Sunak failed to do that. But the biggest opportunity was the vote. He was right not to whip his MPs, because you shouldn't do that for something like this, but he should have voted himself. Had he done so, he would have been on the right side of the public. Yes, opinion is divided amongst Conservatives, but let's be honest, the Conservative supporters who think Johnson shouldn't have been punished are not the moderate swing voters. They are the ones who are going to vote Tory because they will believe everything else, particularly a Labour government, is the greater of the evils. So even if they go to the polling station with a heavy heart and put the cross in the Conservative box, even though they don't like what Rishi Sunak's doing, they will still do it. By not voting, he failed to stand with the voters who actually we are quite prepared to put that cross in the box for the Liberal Democrats or Labour or the Green Party or wherever they're standing. Look at Rishi Sunak from the point of view of a public struggling with the cost of living and disgusted that the Tories, instead of helping them, are actually just fighting each other. Rishi Sunak is the richest MP ever, and he's married into a billionaire's family. He's telling people to just tough the cost of living crisis out. This man, who recently paid to expand the electricity grid in order to heat his new swimming pool, has told people who are in danger of losing their homes to hold their nerve. He's also failed to apply any discipline to his party. Some cabinet ministers have resigned after various investigations, but Sunak claims no credit because he hired them when the misdeeds were known about. He's also failed to investigate the Home Secretary for threatening national security. If the two main gripes that the public have with the government are that their lives are getting worse and the party of government is more interested in squabbling than helping, then Sunak is doing nothing to side with the public, nothing to build that connection. He is arguing for the pain. He is saying, I want your mortgage payments to go up. I want your wages to come down. He's saying that. And he's hiding from his party's indiscipline. This is the crux of why Rishi Sunak has no chance of making that public connection. He is not even trying. And that's without even mentioning what happens when he does try. He's a terrible public speaker. He's incapable of defending his policies. He even got stitched up by Laura Kunsberg today. How bad a Tory leader do you have to get to get done over by Kunsberg? And he never misses an opportunity to rub it in people's faces that he is living it large while ordinary people struggle. We know he's very wealthy. We know he's not going to struggle for food or energy or anything like that. But, I mean, the upgraded pool during a cost of living crisis. The private helicopter flights for short journeys. We're not talking about ones where it's the only way to get there and back in time for something. For relatively short journeys where you could take the train. No, helicopter, private jet. It's like nobody in Sunak's team ever asks, how's this going to look to voters? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.